Hello, my name is Matthew Crawford. On YouTube, I'm also known as Tekking101, and today I'm going to go through a brief tutorial video with you on how to get started making a video on YouTube. Now, this tutorial is not meant to be really in-depth. It's meant for somebody that's never been on YouTube before, never really filmed themselves, and is just wanting to get into the whole thing. So with that being said, I'm going to break this video up into 4 topics: the idea stage, the filming stage, the editing stage, and the uploading stage, where you share your content with the rest of the world. So let's get started. Now, before you decide on exactly how you're going to shoot your video, or before you even pick up a camera really, you need to decide on your content. What are you going to be making videos about on YouTube? Because a positive about YouTube is that it's a really big place that has hundreds of millions of videos on it, but a negative of it is that it's a really huge place that has over hundreds of millions of videos on it. If your content is not something that is special or really stands out or is just not done well, as in if you really don't know what you're talking about when the video begins, people are going to be clicking off of it in the first few seconds. This is even worse when it comes to television or movies. You might have heard something called the 5-minute rule, where if you're not invested in a program in the first 5 minutes, you're going to click off and go to something else. With YouTube, that's way worse because this is a service nobody has to pay for, and they could literally be watching another video within just a click of a button. So you really need to draw that audience in, and a good way to do that is being knowledgeable about your content. So whatever content you're going to put out there on YouTube, whatever video you're going to make sure it's about a topic that you know stuff about. And the great thing is, it doesn't even have to be something that you might find important, like politics, for instance. I mean, it can be, but it could be something as insignificant as maybe an old television show that you might like, something that's been off the air for years, and but you really love, and you've seen all the episodes, and you might feel it's insignificant because it's not something you can just go into a conversation with somebody on the street. But on YouTube, it's different. You're sharing your content with an arena of people from different cultures, from different countries. It doesn't matter how insignificant your content feels to you, there is bound to be at least a few people out there in some community that will latch onto it and that will want to watch your content. So your own worst enemy here is you. Now, that's the first aspect of crafting an idea for your channel, just coming up with something that you know a lot about. I think that's self-explanatory. But the second aspect I find is just as important, and that is entertainment value. What you want to be thinking about is what you can do to make your video unique from everyone else that's talking about the same thing you are. Even if you're picking out something that you might not have a lot of followers for, you want to be able to stand out so people remember you. And whatever you do does not necessarily have to tie in with your topic. It could just be where you film, what your background looks like, or what you're wearing. For instance, in my videos, I discuss Japanese anime, and the only thing that I do at first glance to really stand out is that I wear a suit and a tie in all my videos. It has nothing to do with my topic that I'm discussing, but I made that decision because I knew people would, remember me just for the way I dress. And it worked. So think about something like that. So now that you've come up with the first step, you have a topic that you feel like you know a lot of stuff about, and you have somewhat of an idea on how to make that topic entertaining. Now it's time to film yourself so that you can share that with the masses. So just to talk about the technology itself very briefly on what kind of camera I would prefer that you use, it would most certainly be an HD camera of any type. The problem here is that in the beginning stages of YouTube, back when it started in 2005, 2006, HD cameras were not really commonplace for everyone just to purchase at a reasonable price. So their video quality was a little bit understood while it was not that great, and people still became really popular with that camera quality. However, now, 10 years later, pretty much all the most popular people on YouTube have very good camera quality, at least an HD camera. You don't have to run out and buy something that is an absurdly expensive camera, but HD is felt as like the bare minimum right now, because once again, going back to that 5-second rule, if somebody is watching your channel, even if it is a topic that they might be interested in if they keep watching, if the video quality is not very good, and to some people just being not HD that's inferior in their eyes, they will click off of it. So the quality is just as important as your topic. So with that being said, I'm going to put a link in the description below to a website called camcorder.com that I use. It's a website that lists all the different cameras that you could possibly buy, listing prices on the internet, if they're professional grade cameras, if they're cameras more for just casual use. So that'll probably get you a decent idea on, depending on what you want to discuss, where you're going to shoot at, if it's going to be an indoor camera, outside, maybe it's something that you need a little bit more durability for, like a GoPro camera. That'll give you an idea for what price range that would fit for your videos and how much that you could afford. So just to give a few tips about filming itself, number one, your appearance. You want to look presentable when filming a video. You don't have to dress up like in a suit and tie like I do, but think of it as going to church or going to the office. You want to make sure you look nice when people are watching you, because if you don't seem interested in the topic, then they're not going to keep watching. So the first is definitely appearance. The second, I would say, is your backdrop. What is behind you when you film? And I understand that when people are just getting started making videos, they don't always have a room that they can go to with a blank wall where there's nothing distracting behind them, or a room that they can convert into somewhat of a studio where they can throw up images for whatever topic they're discussing. A lot of times when you're getting started off, you're going to have to film possibly in your bedroom or just in your apartment or wherever you happen to be living. And of course, the issue with that is there's going to be, traces of your own life behind you. Like if you film in your bedroom, there's going to be, posters up behind you, or, personal effects, things that you are interested in. And that's not really a problem. That gives your viewer a look into your life, but you want to make sure that it's not too distracting. You want to make sure your room is cleaned up when you make a video. You want to make sure that there's nothing behind you that your viewers are going to be paying more attention to rather than the star of the show, because that's you. You are the star of the show. So that's just an idea for the backdrop. And the third and final tip I'm going to give you here is that of lighting. Lighting can completely ruin your video if it's not set up right, and there's very few feelings that are worse for somebody that makes content on YouTube than making an entire video, discussing your points, really feeling like you did a good job making a video, and then finding out that most of it is completely unusable because of some stupid reason, like there was a window open behind you and that created a silhouette so you're all darkened out, or that you thought the lighting was adequate, but when you look at it, you turn out that you're much darker or much brighter than you really showed to be. Now, the easiest way to get around this would be doing something called a 3-point lighting setup, where you're standing with your backdrop behind you and you have one light to your left, one light to your right, and then one light above you going straight, and you can adjust those depending on, if your background is a pure white wall or something, or if it's black, you can make adjustments as those sees fit, and that'll usually do a pretty good job of illuminating you without washing you out or giving the silhouette problem or anything such like that. However, this can only really be done with certain lighting equipment, and that can be very expensive. The lighting equipment that I use cost in and around $80 or $90, and I understand that's not something that everyone can just spend on equipment to make videos on the internet that they might not be making a lot of money off of right out of the gate. But there are other ways you can set up lighting that doesn't necessarily have to cost a lot of money. You just want to make sure that you don't look too washed out or too shadowed. A good way that I always do it, even before I had these really good lights, was that I would film myself for about 5 or 10 seconds, where I would film my entire video, and then I would turn off the camera and then check it to make sure that I was well illuminated, that I wasn't too washed out or I wasn't too shadowy, and then I would turn my camera back on and then continue making the video properly. So that's just one tip if you're not really sure on how lighting is, but yeah, it really can make or break your video if it's not done accurately. So now we get to the third part, which is editing, and this is something that I honestly might make an entire separate series of videos about, because it's a topic that is so huge that I could not possibly, discuss everything in this video alone. And there's so many different aspects of it, so many different softwares you can use, and different tricks you can use to maximize your editing goals. But for right now, let me just give you a basic setup. Now, out there in the zeitgeist, all over the internet, there are a large number of editing softwares that you can download, and you can use them to make your videos look amazing. Of course, I can't tell you which one to pick, which one would be the best for you depending on your talents. That's something you have to figure out on your own. If you've worked with some form of editing software before and you feel like you can go one step higher, that's great. If you have never edited before at all, then I'll give you some tips on which ones you should start with. Keep in mind that there are some that you can download for absolutely nothing on the internet, completely free from the developer's website, and there's others that cost a pretty penny. The ones that I use primarily for my videos are Adobe After Effects, Sony Vegas, and PowerDirector 12. Those are all the ones that cost a pretty penny if you want some. But when it comes to one that is free and is the most simple, I would say it would be Windows Movie Maker. It comes for free pretty much, or at least some version of it does, on every Windows PC. If not, you can download any previous version right off the Windows website. And there's not a lot you can do with Movie Maker, but it's very simple to learn how to use, and there's tutorial videos for it all over YouTube. Yes, YouTube is also very great for having a bunch of tutorial videos videos just like this one teaching people how to do stuff. So this is something that I have to defer to other YouTubers for. But any editing software that you pick, any one, I can rest assured that there will be an entire community ready to help you out getting started with that editing software somewhere out there on YouTube. Just search for whatever editing software you feel that you would like to have, something that you feel that you can work with, and you'll have someone explain it to you. And if you feel like, oh, okay, this sounds like something that I could do, then go ahead and order it or download it, depending on which version it is. But always look into it, because you don't want to spend a lot of money on something like this and then find out that you can't even use it because you can't figure it out. There's a bunch of editing softwares out there that I've tried once or twice that I can't make heads or tails of, Avid being one of them. Avid is scary. Film productions love it if you can use Avid, because it's something that requires a high amount of skill level to use, and you can do amazing things with it, but it has a very difficult learning curve. But if I was going to give a recommendation for maybe something for you to look into aside from Windows Movie Maker, I would recommend the Power Director editing softwares, mostly because that was voted like #1 on compatibility, on how to learn how to use it. It was the easiest to learn, and it blends like a professional software with something like Windows Movie Maker that's more basic, but it gives you way more features. So I would look into that if you were thinking about buying anything. And just going on the pay scale alone, something like Power Director compared to Adobe After Effects or Sony Vegas is very cheap by comparison. So that's all I'm going to be talking about in terms of the editing aspect. I can't really go into huge details on, how to do editing tricks or something. Like I said, I would make a whole different series about that. But for right now, just for the purposes of this video, you should find an editing software that fits in your price range and also something that you can learn how to use with relative ease. So now we arrive at the final part, which is also the easiest, sharing your content with YouTube itself. You went ahead, you found a topic that you want to discuss, that you know a lot about, that you found a way to make it entertaining and combine those together to create your content. You filmed it with whatever camera and whatever location that you did. You edited with whatever editing software you got your hands on, and now, sitting on your desktop, you now have the completed video file to share with the world. To do this, all you need is an active YouTube account. Getting one is very simple. If you've never started a YouTube account before, you can just go on their website and there's an option to open it. You can also do it through Google, because Google owns YouTube. So now you can just pop your video directly into the upload box, and you can go ahead and put it out there for all to see. A couple of tips here is that when you upload a video to YouTube, you have 3 main boxes that you can add information into to allow people to find your video easier. The first one is the title box. This should be self-explanatory. You want to pick a title that's not too long, not too short, and gets your point across on what you're discussing. For a first video, that's a big deal. You don't want to just title it, my first video. There are millions of videos out there like that, and it doesn't tell you anything about the content. So, for example, if you're discussing a television show, you can just type in the television show you're talking about, episode 1 discussion or episode 1 review, and that's all. It's simple and to the point, and people understand what they're clicking on when they watch your videos. The second is the video description. This is something where you can go nuts when it comes to describing your video's content. There's no text limit, so you can put in pretty much anything you want, as well as links to other things that you do. For example, if you have a Facebook page or maybe a page that you want people to donate on, you can put links for everything in the description box below. As well as when you are actually making the video, if you want to redirect anyone down to the description box to click on a link or find an example of a song they used, or maybe if they used a video clip, you can find stuff like that. You can put all the links in the description, so that makes everything easier to find. And the final window is the tags window. This is something that does not appear publicly. It is something that helps people search for your videos. You want to put in just simple words, separated by commas, what your video is about. So if you're talking about that television show, you want to type in the television show, comma, maybe the starring actors that appeared in it, maybe the band that did the soundtrack for it, maybe the studio that produced it, maybe the year it was produced, just everything and anything that you can think of that people would search for that relates to this television show, and you want them to find your video. That's what goes in the tags area. So now, congratulations, you have a video on YouTube. What's the next step for you to do? Well, don't give up. That's the one thing. You cannot stop at just 1 video, or 2 videos, or 3 videos. If you want to be successful on YouTube, if you want to build a fan base, you have to create a schedule of videos to upload regularly. This is advice I got from somebody when I started YouTube. It was somebody that I really looked up to at the time, and I've always had this piece of advice with me, and it's you have to create regular content, because even if at first the content does not attach or does not latch on, it doesn't seem like you're getting a lot of views, don't worry about it. Like I said, a really big place, hundreds of millions of videos, there's going to be bound to be things that are going to be overlooked at first. Same thing with me when I first started making videos, but as I kept with it, I kept creating a video every single week, sometimes more than that, and eventually I started developing a fan base. It was a small fan base, but it was there, and that continued to grow because I kept creating content. Never give up, never stop creating videos, because that fan base can diminish just as quickly as it came. And so one last thing I would say is at the beginning of your YouTube career, you want to make sure to just stick to one topic in particular. Maybe later on when you gain a little bit more popularity, you can begin branching off to talking about other things. But at first, when you don't know exactly what's exactly going to click with your fans, you want to stick to something that you know, and then maybe take advice from your fans on what they liked, what they didn't like, and then after you gain somewhat of a fan base, you can begin branching off to talking about other stuff as well, and see how that responds, and then just repeat the process. But anyway, thanks for watching my video. I hope it was informative. This will be Tekking101 signing out.